I, like many other people, have had my fair share of mental health struggles, and I've been lucky enough to lead a very fortunate and privileged life. From the outside, and even by my own account, my life has been really good, and I've been really lucky. However, regardless of that, I still found myself in my early 20s contemplating ending my time on the earth prematurely. And I have to be careful about how I talk about that because YouTube is really sensitive, but essentially I wanted to tap out. I was in a lot of mental pain. I was really confused. I was just struggling. And part of the reason why I wanted to tap out was because I didn't exactly know what was wrong. Like my life seemed good. I would have situations where I would deal with what I thought was maybe making me upset, only to stay upset and the pain would continue. I have some journal entries actually from that time that kind of illustrate what I was going through. And I'm not gonna read through them on here, but I do blog posts that go alongside my YouTube videos. So you'll find a link in the description if you wanna go check that out. It's basically all of the stuff I'm about to go through in a more kind of concise manner, and I share those journal entries there. And I'm gonna speak more to my specific situation later in the video. So basically, I'm good now, and it's been smooth sailing over the last few years, and I haven't had to deal with any of that stuff really since then. I would basically attribute my growth and my ability to move through that and out of that frame of mind to a metaphor and a way that I learned to conceptualize my mental health as a whole, and a framework in which I kind of view my life through that has been immensely beneficial to me, and that's basically what I want to share with you here today. Hello, my name is Suede, and luckily these days I'm happy to be alive. Before I get into it, I just want to acknowledge the fact that mental health is extremely complex. Humans are extremely complex and variable. Everyone has a different life and different challenges and ways that they may need to face them. And I realize that a lot of people do have irreconcilable mental health issues that require medication and special care, and that ultimately aren't under their control. I don't think I was one of those people, but I did think I was. Like I was saying, a lot of my pain and suffering, I thought I was just broken, right? I was like, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to end it, because I just thought I was broken. So luckily that wasn't true. But I just want to hammer home the fact that this is just what has worked for me. This is how I think about mental health. This is how I deal with the issues that I've had. I just want to share my perspective and my framework that's unique to me. And if it can help you, great. If not, you very well may be different than me. So I just want to start by saying that. So I'm not trying to just prescribe the way I think and what I do onto everyone else. I just want to share what's been helpful for me. So the metaphor is the concept of the 4 pillars of mental health. I basically think of my mental health as a ceiling that's held up by 4 pillars. And each pillar is connected to the next in the sense that they're all sharing weight. So if one is compromised or weak, the others take on more weight. And if one breaks, maybe I'll be okay. But if 2 break, I'm in trouble, etc. Right? Or if one breaks and the 3 are already weak, then I run into issues. And I came up with this framework because when I was going through really hard times and I was really struggling, I started to ask myself, is one of those pillars off, right? Is one of my pillars of mental health off or being neglected? And every time for me, the answer was yes, pretty much all the time. So once I clocked that, and I realized that, I really started thinking of my life and my mental health in this way, and it has been very helpful and successful for me. So the first part of this is basically a foundation. It's like your why, right? Why are you alive? Why are you living? What is the point of your life? Why do you want to stay alive? This is required, basically, right? If you have no purpose or no reason to be alive, why would you want to be? And this is going to be uniquely individual for everyone, right? Everyone has a different reason. For a lot of people, it's God or a religious imperative, right? They're thinking of heaven, they're thinking of the afterlife, they think they have a job to do on earth because of a religion, whether it's reincarnation or karma or whatever, right? So that's a very common reason that people have as a foundation, and it works really well. Some other reasons that people might have are just your family, your loved ones, right? You're living for them, to take care of them because you want to be around them, because you love them, etc. For some people, it's just pure hedonism, right? They just want to have a good time. They want to enjoy their life. They want to feel good, and they want to experience all the different things you can experience in life. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as a foundation, but it is pretty common and I think it can work. And also, if you're struggling with this and you don't necessarily have a purpose or a why, and that's a big question mark for you, I think your why can be to discover what your why is, right? That could be your reason. And your foundation is to figure out what your purpose is, figure out why you're here, think about and explore. So those are just a few off the top of the dome. But for me, my foundation is that I want to inspire myself and the world, and I want to have a legacy, and I want to leave the world better than I found it, and I want to prove to myself and other people that life can be more of what you dream. That is what gets me out of bed. That is why I do what I do for the most part. So this is something you got to figure out for yourself. I'm not going to talk too much more about this in the video, but I will link a blog post below. It's called More of What You Dream, and it's thinking about what your life could be, and just an alternate framework for maybe looking at that. So that'll be in the description if you're kind of stuck at this phase, but that's the foundation. I want to go now to pillar 1. Pillar 1 is mindset, your mental habits. You are your mind, right? And the way you think and the way you talk to yourself is arguably one of the biggest levers you have to change your life. And a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to this, but you're constantly telling yourself stories about things that happen. You're constantly having thoughts and they become super automatic. And it makes sense to really pay attention to these because, like I said, they're automatic and there's ways you can augment and change it that become really helpful. And the way I would like to kind of illustrate this effect is by talking about this study that was done. They're looking at the effect of people's stress on their health over time, right? And what they found is that people who told themselves a positive story about their stress, that thought being stressed was good for them and made them stronger, those people had better health outcomes over time than the people who thought stress was bad for them. And these are people with similar stress levels, right? So similar stress level people, the people that thought it was bad had worse health outcomes than the people who thought stress was good for them. So just the story you're telling yourself about things can have such a big impact on your life and how you feel in general, especially over time, right? These negative mental habits over time can really steer you in a direction that's not good. This is another blog post I've done about this, which was really instrumental for me in changing my mind. And it's called Ready, Mindset, Go. It's the art of flipping negatives into positives, right? In everything that happens, there's a negative aspect of it and a positive aspect of it. Even in horrible things, you can find a silver lining, you can find something. And being in the habit of looking for those things like a game, like I'm going to find a way to make this bad thing turn good, right? You fail. You can think of failure like, oh no, I suck, I can never do this, I'm bad, etc. Every time you fail, you could tell yourself those stories, or you could be in a habit of saying, this is just a stepping stone to success, I can learn from this. You know, it's like that Edison thing where it's now I know 1001 ways to not make a light bulb or whatever. You can see how the same person who maybe has a negative mental habit and mindset versus a positive one, how those paths will diverge over time. So that's one of the first things I changed that really changed my life, that I started paying attention to. So a tip for this is like, you can think of your thoughts, right? When something happens and you have a thought or a judgment about it, you can think of it like words on a TV, right? And you can think, oh, is that true? Is that helpful? Do you want to change it? Rather than just always accepting your thoughts as truth or your judgments as truth. I would say that your mental habits are just as important, if not more important, than your physical habits. And I'll recommend you a book called Atomic Habits about habit forming and habit building. Super helpful. It was a mega bestseller. It's a total banger. Super good resource for this. So that'll be linked in the description as well. And then the last tip for this would be a mindfulness practice. This might be the most important thing of this entire video. Learning to pay attention to your mind and building a relationship with your thoughts that is disconnected, where you can really observe them, is massive, right? And so for this, I use an app called Waking Up. I'll put a link in the description for a free month. And it's also, this isn't sponsored, but they also do a thing where if you can't afford it, you can just email their support and they'll give it to you for free. So huge recommendation there. And it is so important. If being in your mind and your brain is hard and it's not fun, right? This is a huge way to kind of steer that. That's the first pillar, mindset. Pillar 2, exercise. With this one, if you know, you know, right? There's a lot going on biologically when you exercise, but the main thing is endorphins, right? When you work out, your body produces endorphins and you feel good. It makes you feel good. This is what runner's high is, right? That's a real thing. You work out, you feel good. Changes how you feel. It makes sense to do it every day if you're not feeling good, right? The other thing I found here is that if you struggle really hard early in the morning in a workout, other things in your day that may be stressful seem less stressful relative to if you're just like struggling with everything you have to lift a weight off your chest, right? Starting your day in that intense mode takes the edge off of everything else throughout the day. And over time, that can have a really massive effect. There's an added benefit, which is aesthetic, right? You're going to look better and you're going to feel better about yourself. It can boost your self-esteem, not just how you feel about yourself because of how you look, but because you did something hard every day, right? You're accomplishing a goal, you're making progress, you're moving forward, you're doing something hard. It makes you feel good about yourself. Has a massive effect. At least for me, this was huge. A tip I would like to give you that's basically allowed me to consistently exercise for the last probably 8 to 5 years is I just have one rule, which is no 2 days off in a row. So I can work out every other day, but I can't do 2 days off of working out in a row. Even if I got to bust out some push-ups in a hotel room or whatever it may be, I've followed that rule and I've been able to basically consistently exercise, and it's just worked wonders for me. Huge plus. Another way to think about it is like, what did humans evolve doing? Right? And are you doing those things? And one of the things humans evolved doing is moving and being active a lot, right? Our lives were so active, doing things, hunting, fishing, building stuff, gathering, just doing tons of being active, right? So if you're overly sedentary, it makes sense that your mind is going to not be at ease and you're going to run into some issues with that, right? So being active for part of your day, huge. And then the other thing is that there is a massive link between obesity and mental health issues like anxiety and depression. From what I know, it's a bi-directional link. So you could have anxiety or be severely depressed, and that kind of causes you to become overweight and unhealthy. But it's bi-directional. It goes both ways, and your body and your mind are connected, right? So it makes sense that if you have an unhealthy body, you're going to have an unhealthy mind. And if you have an unhealthy mind, it's going to make your body unhealthy or raise your chances of having an unhealthy body. And this goes back to the first pillar, which is if you have a good mindset and you take care of your mind, it makes it easier to take care of your body as well. But it goes both ways. And yeah, this leads me perfectly to my next pillar, which is diet. What you eat changes how you feel. We all know this. You ever been hangry, right? Your gut has a massive influence over how you feel and even how you act. If you think about what a craving is, right? Your gut wants something and it's telling your brain that, and then your brain is pushing you to make an action to give the gut what it wants, right? So it's literally affecting your behavior and how you feel and what you want. So it makes sense to pay attention to what you're putting in your body and paying attention to your diet and your food, and you are what you eat. It's pretty straightforward, but it's just really worth paying attention to. And like I said, in the past, if I've been struggling and I start to spiral, I start to get really depressed, I start to have dark thoughts, a lot of times I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm eating sugar, I'm eating horribly, I'm eating fast food, I'm not eating healthy foods, not eating whole foods, etc. Of course I feel like shit and I'm depressed. So it's something to pay attention to. And this is something when I was younger, I never clocked it. I didn't think when I was eating junk food like, this has the risk of making me depressed, and then combine it with other factors and it's a recipe for disaster. And the other thing very important to include in this pillar is not just food, but substances, right? Drugs, alcohol, things like that. Those obviously too have a massive effect on how you feel. And also if you are used to taking them and don't, if like I used to smoke a lot of weed, you stop smoking weed, you run into some issues a lot of times, right? If you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, well, I don't do drugs, so I don't have to worry about it. Newsflash, caffeine is a drug. Drinking caffeine, very potent, addictive drug that totally changes how you feel. And I myself, and I've witnessed other people be totally brought to their knees by caffeine withdrawals when they try to quit coffee cold turkey, right? Not everyone is like that, but a lot of people are. Alcohol, drug, right? A lot of foods too function as drugs. Like a lot of dairy and stuff like that has similar addictive effects and things like that. So all these substances, right? It's just worth paying attention to and possibly linking that as a cause for issues that you're having mentally. I know it's been a factor for me, big factor for me in the past that I didn't really realize at the time. And the thing is that what you're consuming physically is only half of the story with diet. The other half, equally as important, if not more, is mental diet. What you're watching, what you're reading, what you're talking about, what you're consuming into your mind, right? Into your brain. And this goes a long way. It's like if you fill your mind with shit, the idea that you're going to feel bad or be depressed or have anxiety if you're watching the news and watching these wars and you're watching the drones and you're watching all this political shit and you're watching shit constantly pumping shit into your brain, you're going to feel bad, like, right? And so a rule of thumb I have for this is that if you're consuming it on a vertically scrolled feed, it's probably 90% bad for you. If you don't believe me, right? If you're like, oh, it's fine, I can watch horror movies and watch the news and it doesn't have an effect on me. Try a cleanse. Get off of social media, stop watching the news, stop watching TV for like a month and see how you feel when you get back on. I know people, and also me personally, like when I log on to Instagram now, I feel physically sick. I've been retired from social media for a few months now, and my mental health struggles are nowhere to be found. Once in a while, I'll catch a whiff of some of those feelings, or I'll like hear something rustling in the bushes, but it's never anything that a good night's sleep won't take care of for me. And that segues me directly into my next pillar, sleep. It's honestly frustrating and annoying to me how much sleep matters in terms of mental health and just health in general. I've found it's not just quantity of sleep, but quality. I have the Whoop sleep tracker, and I found that like it's better for me to just go to sleep and wake up at my designated times, like my scheduled times, than to just sleep long. I know for a fact for me, if I sleep in past my time I usually wake up, I'm more likely to be irritable, have less willpower, and just make worse choices throughout the day. It's harder to stay on task, and so I just really focus on that. Some resources for this, there's going to be 2 podcasts I'll link below by Andrew Huberman and Matthew Walker. They're 10 out of 10 resources for understanding your sleep, and you will find that sleep has pillars of its own, right? Sunlight in your eyes when you wake up and when you're going to bed, and the effect that has on you. When you eat, your feeding schedule, the temperature when you sleep. There's all these other factors that go into good sleep, and learning this stuff completely changed my life and how I feel, like in a massive way. It's such a giant factor. Bonus area, which I have to talk about, therapy. I can't leave this out, and you can fit it into the pillar metaphor by thinking of it like a contractor or someone that can help you audit, maintain, and remodel your structure and your pillars, right? That's how I think of it. Back to the beginning of the video when I was going through my hard times. I literally wound up in the doctor's office because I was like, something's wrong with me. I went to the doctor. I'm like, dude, like I want to be done with being alive. And what the hell? He referred to me to a therapist. So I begrudgingly went to this therapist, and it was hard to go, right? I was embarrassed to go. I'm sitting in the lobby like I'm broken and like I'm with all these other people, and it was really embarrassing and hard to go. But I just went because I was like, I gotta do something. And it helped me so much. It was so good. I learned there at the therapist a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. Like most of this stuff that I'm talking about, I discovered there, where she's helping me figure out these relationships between my mental health and my lifestyle choices and all these different things that were just unknown to me. Like I wasn't clocking that those were having these effects on me. Eventually she moved, and I had to basically go get another therapist, and it was this old guy. He was way different though. He basically would just like ask me leading questions and let me rant for an hour, and I would kind of figure stuff out on my own in that way. But I would recommend a therapist for everyone basically. Even if you don't struggle with mental health, it's just good to have someone to vent to and talk to and deal with things, so you're not constantly burdening your friends and family with your issues and your problems, right? It can be really helpful. And if you've tried it before or it didn't work or you didn't like it, I would recommend finding a different therapist. They aren't all created equal, and you might just need to shop around till you find a good fit for someone that fits with you personally and you feel comfortable around, or their tactics work with you. All in all, when I look back, I just see all these things that I could see were messing me up and causing me to just be so mentally unhealthy and unhappy, and caused me so much suffering that I was not clocking that they were doing that. And a lot of them were doing it in conjunction. Like it was bad sleep in conjunction with smoking too much weed and eating like shit. And here I am wanting to not live, and I can't figure out what's wrong. It's because I was so unhealthy, right? And all these different things together. And I will also say that like things happen in life. Like tornadoes come through and wreck your structure a lot of times, and things just happen in life that really suck and are hard. But I would say being depressed or suffering in the face of those things, it's natural and it's not necessarily unhealthy, right? When something bad happens, to be depressed. All this stuff I'm talking about is basically how I avoid being severely depressed unnecessarily, right? Not for any other external reason. And, at the end of the day, I think it really starts with know thyself, right? It really starts with examining your mind and your brain and your habits and how you think. And a lot of this stuff can stem from that. And paying attention to like when you feel bad, why? Like going back through your day before, your week before, and be like, what am I doing? Kind of to wrap everything up, there's a few other things I want to mention. One is that when you start thinking this way and viewing your mental health through this framework, you'll find that like little things can be a big deal, right? And you'll think, oh, eating that cookie or staying up an extra hour before you go to bed, or like, beating yourself up about something you did wrong. These things seem maybe small on the surface, but when you view it through this lens, a lot of them can start to seem like a bigger deal, and you pay more attention to them and will make different choices when you view it as this holistic thing, because none of it lives in a vacuum. It's all this interconnected system, and little things can domino and snowball, at least for me. So that's one thing. Another thing is that if your pillars are weak, if you're eating bad, if you're sleeping bad, if you have negative mental talk, if you have all these things, it can make events in your life seem much worse than they are, right? And this is something I experienced a lot, where I would have an issue, let's say someone is behaving a negative way that I don't like, right? And it's this big deal to me, and it's causing me all this pain, and I'm torn up about it, and all this, only to find out that if I got my sleep together, if I started eating good and I started being healthy, this thing didn't bother me anymore. And it was bothering me because my body and my mind was so unhealthy, right? You can think all these external factors are horrible and messing you up and bothering you so much, but really they aren't that bad. It's just your mindset is so bad and your body and mind is so unhealthy that these things seem like these big deals that are causing you to have an issue, and you think your life is bad when it's not so bad. And so that's another main thing I noticed. And then I will mention, sometimes when you make these little changes, it takes a while for the clouds to dissipate and for things to improve and get better. So you have to be patient, right? If you're, struggling and you're making these changes and you're like, I still feel bad, you got to change your lifestyle over time, and it takes a while to really see serious changes. The last thing I'll mention before I go is that this is just what works for me. This is how I think about it. This is my understanding of my mind and what works and how things are. I'm not trying to pretend like this is how everything is or everyone is or what everyone needs to do. And I totally understand that everyone is so different. So I don't want to come across like I know the answer, right? Because this is just what has worked for me, but it's worked really well. And it's been so helpful for me to view things this way that I so badly wish I could go back and tell my younger self this stuff, or someone would have told me this when I was going through that hard time, because it could have went bad. I was lucky enough to get to the doctor when I did and figure it out, but that could have not happened, right? So that's a huge impetus for me just wanting to share this, if it can help anyone. I have a suspicion, which I wouldn't die on this hill, but I have a suspicion that a lot of the mental health and anxiety and depression that people are dealing with these days is actually the cause of things that people are just unaware of, right? And they're not realizing the things that are causing them to feel horrible, and they think they're broken, and they think they're just clinically depressed or have really bad anxiety, and they might. But I believe that there's actually a lot of things you have control over that you can do that can really change and help these things, that are not medication and you're not just broken, right? Our world is getting increasingly complex, and with social media and all the tensions and the news and everything, and all the poisonous foods that we're being fed, especially in America, and marketed, and all the drugs and everything. I think there's a lot more that can be done to help people than we might realize as a society. That's just my guess. But like I said, to each their own, and everyone's different. And I do acknowledge that a lot of people they are broken, right? They just have serious chemical imbalances and problems in their mind that require medication or special care or whatever. I'm not just saying just eat good and you'll be happy again, but it can help. At the end of the day, I just hope this can help someone. So if it can help you, awesome. Also, if you know anyone else that you think it would help, feel free to send it to them. And also, if you have your own tips and tricks, if you had your own struggles or your own stories or anything, feel free to share in the comments for other people to read. There might be someone reading this that none of this will help them, but your specific way or thing you've had to deal with or issue will help them. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe, like the video, and check out my blog. Most of these videos I do are in tandem with my blog, and my blog is kind of the heart or the seed of a lot of my content, where I'm really thinking clearly and concisely about a lot of these issues. It's free to subscribe. You literally just put your email in and you get it in your inbox when I post, and I'd love to have you there. Also, just check out the rest of the links in the description if you want. I got music, I got a merch store, I got my blog, and I got this channel. I have a lot of traveling and vlogs that I'm planning on doing. I'm going to be traveling most of 2025. I just did my first travel vlog from Thailand. And yeah, I have a lot of cool things planned, but I just wanted to share this, and I hope it can help someone. And we'll see you on the next video. Peace.